When you're dealing with unruly fabric, it's not worth it. In today's session, we are going to be doing a simple pillow cover, one of the easiest pillow cover you will ever make. Hi, home stars. I'm Valerie, and thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time here, I hope it won't be your last. Now, as I mentioned, we are going to do a simple pillow cover step by step. So stick with me. We are going somewhere and you're going to be very satisfied in the end. Now, the first thing we want to do is measure the insert that we will be using. I won't measure this because I already know it's an 18 by 18 insert. And so if you are going to measure your insert, you want to measure from the top point here to the bottom point here and from side to side. That is how you know the size of your insert. Before we get into cutting our fabric, we have to know how big our fabric panel is going to be, because yes, we are making this insert from one piece of fabric. And because we're going to do that, you'll see it in a minute on my table, but we're going to go ahead and railroad the fabric in order to get our one panel of fabric, right? Now, our insert, as I said, is 18 by 18. Maybe I should write a little bigger. So let's do that again. Our insert is 18 inches by 18 inches. In order for us to know how long to cut our fabric, we have to add 18 by 18, because remember now we're using one panel of fabric. So 18 plus 18 would be 36 inches. Now, not only do we need to add the 18 plus the 18, but we need to add increments. One of the increment that we need to add is the overlap. I would suggest overlapping your pillow not less than 3 inches. So I'll add 3 inches to that. That's 39 inches. Now we also need to add our hems, right? Because we have to stitch off the ends of the panel. And I would suggest that you do a 1-inch double hem, which means that if we're going to do a 1-inch double hem, we fold and then we fold again. So that's 2 inches on the one side and 2 inches on the other side. So we'll add 4 inches. So that's 9 and 4. So that's 43 inches. Now we want to allow increment also for our seam. And so a 1/2 inch on one side and a 1/2 inch on the other side is fine. So we'll add 1 inch for our seam allowance. That's 44 inches. So that is the length of the panel that we will be cutting. But what about the width? Okay, so our width is 18 inches. So what we do then is take that 18 inches and all we're going to add to that is our increments for our seam, which is 1 inch. So that's 19 inches. That's going to fit the pillow insert snug. If you want your pillow cover a little loose, then instead of adding 1 inch for the side hems, then you go ahead and you add 2 inches instead. And the same thing for the length. Instead of adding 1 inch, you would add 2 inches. I'm adding 1 inch because I want it to just fit the insert. So my fabric panel that I will be cutting will be 19 inches width and 44 inches length. So let's turn our attention to the table and start cutting. First thing we need to do here is to square up the fabric. And I am using a square here, a triangle. And so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to line up the one edge to my self edge. And then I am going to draw my line. Just got to make sure it doesn't shift. Then I'm going to draw my line here. Then I'm going to put away my square and I'm going to get my yardstick, and then I'm just going to line up the yardstick with the mark that I just made. Let's do this. And then there we go. I am just going to start. There we go. And it doesn't go across, so I'll just overlap my yardstick with the mark. And I'll just finish drawing my line. I'm going to grab my scissors and cut following the line I just drew. So when I'm done cutting here, I am going to do a zigzag. We are going to cut our width right now, which is 19 inches. So I'll fold that back and I'll go ahead and measure off 19 inches here with my yardstick. That's 19 inches to this point. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Measure off 19 inches. I'm going to take this and I am going to line it up with my mark here. Before I go any further, I'm going to put a couple of pins in just to make sure my fabric does not shift. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut across in front of my edge that I folded over. There we go. Now we can take these pins out. This is way too long, so I am going to go ahead and cut off a piece that is 44 inches. I'll measure off 44 inches. And I'm going to do 44 inches up here. I'm gonna mark it off, and then I'm gonna go ahead and use my ruler to connect the two marks. There we go. And then I'm gonna cut this piece off. And I can actually save this piece to combine with something else to make another pillow. I don't have to throw it out. So now we are ready to use our sewing machine. I mentioned about serging off or doing the zigzag. I'm going to do the zigzag, but what I'm going to do is go ahead and stitch the hem for the two ends before I do the zigzag on the sides. Let's do 2 inches in here. That's 2 inches. And let's do 2 inches over here. Now remember, we are doing a 1 inch double hem. 2 inches. So basically, I'm gonna go ahead and press in the 2 inches. So after I'm finished pressing, I'm just gonna open this and I'm gonna bring the edge back to the line that I just pressed in. Then I'm gonna fold and just start stitching off my hem. I will fold the fabric back to the line as I go. Okay, so now we're gonna do the other side. Okay, there we go. So now we're gonna take our pins out and we're gonna do the same thing we did with the other side. There we go. So now we are done. We are going to, there's a few pieces of thread here I need to trim. Do you know when you do your envelope pillow, most times you just use the front. You don't want to use the back because you have the overlap and it may not look pleasant in your space. Well, I am going to show you a trick how you can use your back side of the cushion and show it on your couch, no problem. All you have to do is put a piece of trim, just have some fun with it. And so what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put a piece of trim on this, and I'm gonna do it on this edge here. And this is how I have to put the trim. When this folds over like this, you want your trim to be like this, right? And if your trim is gonna be like this, then when you stitch it on, you gotta make sure it's like this. So it's facing the edge of the fabric here. Let's go ahead and stitch this baby on. I'm gonna cut this and then I'm gonna stitch off the end of my trim here because I don't want it to keep going inwards. My trim will stay intact. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here. But before I cut it, this time I'm gonna go ahead and do the stitching. Yeah, that's a better thing to do. And then I'm gonna cut beyond the trim. Now we're gonna go ahead and finish off the pillow. And when you're overlapping, just remember the part that you want to show when you flip the pillow inside out, that's a part that needs to go under, right? So we are gonna fold this over 3 inches because we allowed for a 3-inch overlap. We'll just fold this over 3 inches, 3 inches, 3 inches. That's good. I'm gonna go ahead and I am gonna pin this in place. And let's do over here 3 inches. All we're gonna do is take this and put it all the way up to here. Right? And then we're just going to stitch here. We're going to stitch here. And so I'm going to go ahead and stitch. Okay, so now I know I had already zigzagged, but it doesn't do me any wrong if I go ahead and do an... Yeah. So as unruly as this fabric is, we are going to be fine because we did a couple zigzag. Now let's take this pin out and this pin. And then we're going to go ahead and turn it inside out. And just like this, we are done. We have an envelope pillow. And I'm sure you want to see what it looks like on the other side. There you go, my friends. This is how we elevate our envelope pillow, just by putting a trim on the overlap, right? So if you have this sitting on your couch, you can use this side or you can use this side, because you may not like how it looks with the overlap only, and so you may not never show this side, but with the trim on it, you may just want to show this side and not this side. If you got value from today's session, go ahead, drop it in the comments, let me know, subscribe, and remember to turn on your bell notification. Also, share with somebody who may want to make some pillow covers to brighten up their spaces for the spring season, spring and summer. Can't wait to connect with you again in the studio. You take good care now. Love you.